Are you ready for the rough?
Hey, what's up guys? Tyler here with Secure Team. Got some really creepy stuff to talk about today. You guys can give me your take on it afterwards, but it's very creepy. And I'm sure many of you have heard the stories, the news reports about this. Some of you may even know people that this has personally happened to. And the reason I am making this video to begin with, as I normally do videos on space, UFOs, aliens, things like that, is because this topic of the so-called phantom clowns has actually personally happened to a very close friend of mine just a couple days ago. And it freaked me out, and at the very least, I'll tell you guys about it, give you a warning, give you a heads up, and like I said, I wanted to make this video about it because it's very interesting, very bizarre, very disconcerting, especially if you have a fear of clowns. And, well, let's go ahead and get to it. So as I stated before, the topic of this video is that of the so-called phantom clown sightings. Now, if you haven't followed the news, recently, these sightings of people dressed up as clowns have been happening a lot lately, and all over the country. There was a recent rash of these creepy clowns that have been seen on playgrounds, in the woods, in vans trying to lure children with candy, on people's doorsteps, and various other places. And nobody knows who they are, why they're doing it. They always seem to get away, leaving local law enforcement high and dry. And these clowns seem to vanish as mysteriously quick as they appeared. And so this all started, well, the first news reports that came to the limelight recently were out of a town called Greenville, South Carolina, where one of these red-nosed creeps were reportedly trying to lure kids into a house in the woods by flashing wads of candy and cash. The police looked into the claims and of course found nothing, which normally is what happens. I have found in most of these cases, if not all of them, is that the police are either incompetent or are simply ignoring these claims of these creepy clowns appearing everywhere as simply mass hysteria, kids with their imaginations, or what have you. But the bottom line is they don't seem to be catching these guys. And these reports have spread through South Carolina, and that's what kind of brought it to light. And so you started seeing articles all over the web. So then they started happening in other cities and other states across America. Alabama, Kansas, California, Ohio, Rhode Island. Some elementary schools in Alabama recently have ramped up security after more reports emerged that clowns were going to attack local schools with guns. In Ohio, a sheriff's office is looking for 2 clowns and advising citizens to contact their local law enforcement because they were, quote, unsure what their intentions are at this point. Reports in Florida are coming in weekly, with police getting calls about clowns being seen on the side of the road, once again in the woods, and as usual, police have had no success in locating them. And as I'm narrating this video, the pictures that you're going to see are actual photographs snapped of these creepy-ass clowns. So these are not stock photos or anything like that. These are the real guys that have been seen, at least. So these clowns are being sighted everywhere. Police departments across the country are getting reports, most of which come from children. And of course, most of their parents, as well as the police, don't believe them. That is until the parents witness these clowns and start raising hell at their schools and to, once again, the police department. Now, we don't know a whole lot about who these clowns were, as I said earlier. nor do we know why they're doing what they're doing. And by the way, and I'll get to this in a second, but these phantom clown sightings have been happening long before there was even an internet, long before there was any media coverage, and I'm talking back decades and decades. And so here are a few things that we do know about these clowns. First of all, they usually always begin with sightings from children, which, as I said earlier, are often brushed off by authority figures. Number two, the clowns that have been sighted all over always seem to be very threatening or confrontational or just all around unfriendly. Not like you would see at a kid's birthday party or something like that. Not just some guy out there wearing a clown outfit, doing magic tricks and making balloon animals, being stupid. No, these guys are, evil intentioned is the vibe that most people get, and that these clowns have shown through their activities. Another thing that we've noted earlier is the fact that these clowns always seem to be one step ahead of law enforcement. Although you would think that they would get busted sooner or later. And don't get me wrong, there have been maybe one or two that I can find online that have actually been arrested. But those cases, I don't know, they seem different. Those cases were just some teenagers or some drunk guy who was playing a prank on a specific person, and it just has a different vibe to what we're seeing here. And again, they seem to just vanish. Once you dig a little bit deeper, you find that these clown sightings have been going on for much longer than I ever knew. I didn't even know how far back this phenomenon goes. And so from all the research I've tried to do, what I can see is that these sightings first really happened in mass and were first reported back in 1981, when the sightings struck at least 6 different cities and states, all of which once again were chalked up as fairy tales by the children, fairy tales even by the parents who witnessed these clowns. I mean, the police just didn't care, and they didn't have the capabilities nor the manpower to go out and investigate every time someone said they saw some creepy guy in a clown outfit. There were a whole list of reports that came in to the Boston police in the spring of 1981, with reports of children who had been seeing a bunch of clowns driving around in a van that had been trying to lure them inside with, once again, candy. Nobody was ever arrested, and the reports continued to come in. Later that year in Kansas City, there were reports coming in by children who were being harassed by a knife-wielding clown who, for weeks, was harassing kids on school playgrounds across the city. And it just went on and on. And again, this is in the early 80s. There was no reason. There was no internet. There was very, very little media coverage. It sort of died down in the mid to late 80s. It sprung up again in the early 90s with more sightings, and it's also begun happening overseas in such places as Scotland, the UK, all of which are experiencing their fair share of these phantom clowns. Which brings us up to date, and these things seem to be ramping up, and it's really actually pretty scary. And as I said, the reason I made this video is because someone I know came in contact with one of these clowns, and I am not kidding, I'm not bullshitting. I was on Facebook a couple nights ago, and I read a post from one of my friends that stated, roughly, that she was scared to death, that the police had just left her house. She said that she was sleeping at about 1 in the morning when she heard someone pounding on her door. Pounding. She went to the door, thinking that possibly it was a neighbor or something that had happened, not thinking, and opened the door, and there, standing in front of her, was a clown. And before she knew it, the clown had tried to bust through the door, was halfway in her house, when she finally was able to push the door shut, lock it, and call the police. The police came, clown was nowhere to be found, completely scared the shit out of her. And again, this was just a couple days ago, and in the city with which I live. This was just maybe 7 or 8 miles away from me. So, I wanted to make this video because you never know when this could happen to you. You never know what these guys are up to. I have no idea what's going on. Like I said, it's really creepy. But I'll tell you what. I see a clown trying to break into my house. They're getting their head blown off. I own a firearm. I have a concealed carry license. And I'll be damned, prank or no prank, you try to hurt me or my family, I'm going to put you down. And so it becomes not just a prank or some kids out dressed as a clown trying to creep people out, which I'm sure there are some instances, obviously. But a lot of these, which is even more scary, are being perpetrated with more nefarious reasons and more evil intentions. People are getting knocks on their doors in the middle of the night. People trying to break into their house. People trying to lure their children into vans or into the woods. Carrying weapons, being very threatening. Again, it's just another strange phenomenon that keeps springing up with little to no closure, no action from the police, and the fear is growing. The hysteria is growing. So I wanted to let you guys know, see what you guys thought. If you guys have seen one of these clowns, I personally haven't. But now that I know that one has been sighted knocking on the door in the town that I live in, you better believe I'm locking my door and I'm keeping a close eye on my kid, whether he's at the playground, whether he's on the front porch. I'm keeping an eye on him. And so I'm just letting all of you guys know, no matter where you are, there's something weird going on here. So I thought I'd let you guys know. Thanks for watching. Put your comments down below, and yeah, keep your eyes open. Be sure to share, like, and subscribe on your way out, and do stick around because we've got a lot more coming, and seriously, stay safe, guys.